Welcome in. It is Big Ten Today. We are presented by Gatorade on this Thursday. It's great to have you with us. Dave Repson and Raphael Davis. And I feel like, Raphael, this is a time of year for many football fans when they first start trying to catch up on basketball. So you have been dialed in from the word go.
Yep.
We will let you kind of brief people maybe on some of the surprises they've missed. But I think the overall theme so far in Big Ten basketball might be parity. There are a lot of really good teams.
Yep.
It's unclear right now whether there's a great one.
Yeah, it's a lot of good teams, but I look at the Big Ten, I look at how the national landscape coming into this season was. The country will sleep on the Big Ten. We got a few teams that can make a really deep run into March Madness, teams that should be playing on that second and third weekend. We got 4 or 5 lottery picks in this year's Big Ten Conference. It's going to be a really good year for Big Ten basketball.
Yeah, there is some serious individual talent. I mean, mind-boggling. And we'll get to some of the young players who have really made a difference here. But let's dive in to hoops. It is our big story, and a look at the Big Ten standings. Everyone other than Indiana and Nebraska has played 2 conference games. Those 2 will meet tomorrow in Lincoln. Only 3 teams managed to go 2-0. UCLA, Michigan, and Michigan State. Washington, Minnesota, and number 20, Wisconsin, dropped both of their early conference games. 10 teams went 1-1. 8 of those 10 won their home game and lost their road game. The only exceptions there were Oregon and USC. And Raphael, I mentioned we want to get into some surprises, and so let's start with one of the teams that went 2-0 in Michigan. This was a team that finished last in the Big Ten last year for the first time in nearly 60 years. They set a school record for losses. So, look, the easy answer is they hired a new coach, and Dusty May's done really well. But help people understand, like, what's going on with this Michigan team. What do they need to know about the Wolverines?
Well, it starts with Coach Dusty May going into the portal and getting the right guys. When you're building a new roster, especially from scratch, you've got to get winners in that program. You've got to get guys that transferring in to win ball games, and they're not necessarily transferring in just to help their case to get to the next level. And you look at a guy, Danny Wolf, played on a really good Yale team, went to the NCAA tournament. You look at Trey Donaldson, a really good Auburn team. Reuben Jones is the all-time winningest player at North Texas. So you start there, you get winners, you get locker room guys, and then you look at Danny Wolf and these guys. They are just mismatches on offense. Danny Wolf is a unicorn with the basketball. At 7 foot, he can get that defensive rebound and push the break. He can go create for himself, create for others, great in the ball screen action. Flag Golden has really found his footing in the last 3 or 4 games. This Michigan team is special offensively. And then the biggest question for me coming in was how would they defend with those 2 7-footers? And now they're sitting at one of the better defenses in the country.
Yeah, they've defended really well. It's been fascinating to watch Wolf and Golden together. Part of it is, well, how do you play 2 7-footers at the same time? I think that was kind of the question going into the year, and would they kind of be redundant position-wise? They're totally different players, right? I mean, the only thing they have in common is their height. It's amazing. Like, against Wisconsin,
it was crazy.
Crazy how well they work the pick and roll. And Wolf functions almost as a point guard. I mean, his skill set is incredible.
Yeah, you go back to that Wisconsin game, and Coach Gard ended up putting John Blackwell on Danny Wolf. You put a 6'4" guard on Danny Wolf, who's a 7-footer, and you think you're going to slow down that ball screen, but they just set that ball screen a little bit lower on the wing, and Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden just picked Wisconsin apart. If you stayed with and you tried to get through that ball screen, it was Danny Wolf finishing at the rim, shooting over smaller defenders. If you switched it, it was Vlad Golden inside, just living at the rim. You look at Danny Wolf's stat line from that Wisconsin game, it was incredible. 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks. Just did it on both ends of the floor. And now that you have Vlad going inside, there's no wiggle room from the defense. Because you think about helping off a Trey Donaldson and those guys on the perimeter, they're 40% three-point shooters. They're going to make you pay.
Wolf had 9 assists the other night against Arkansas.
Crazy,
no,
man.
it's just
7 foot.
It really is nuts. And they play fast.
Yes.
I mean, they are fun. It's less than 15 seconds per offensive possession. There are only 9 teams, I think, in the country that are playing faster on the offensive end than Michigan is. They're a fun team to watch. Maryland has transformed themselves as well. I mean, this is another team that played on the first day of the Big Ten tournament last year. They were nowhere near as bad as Michigan was, but it certainly wasn't a great team. They missed the NCAA tournament, and they, too, have transformed the way they play. They are a much faster, and much more complete offensive team.
Yeah, when you look at Kevin Willard's team, you look at this Maryland squad the last couple seasons, it's been defense, defense, defense. Get in your face, turn you over, force havoc in the half court, and use their defense to score points, but that's flipped. A year ago, it was Jameer Young, go get us 30. Let's hope Dante Scott can make some shots, get Julian Reese going, and they had no help outside of that. But obviously, you bring in a freshman in Derek Queen, a first-round draft pick, a lottery pick. You see what he was able to do on the road in Mackey Arena, one of the toughest environments in college basketball. This freshman went there, had 26 points, 12 rebounds. He was outstanding. You talk about Danny Wolf being that size, having that skill set. Derek Queen fits that same mold. He reminds me of Jokic in the half court. He can stretch the floor. He can get to his mid-range, come off a ball screen. But then their guard play is just night and day from a season ago. Rodney Rice, Jacoby Gillespie, and Selton Miguel are three guys on the wing that can make a shot, they can get to the basket, they defend at a high level. When you have three perimeter guys going along with Derek Queen inside, Julian Reese has been the man this season. Maryland is cooking.
Oh, they were a truly terrible outside shooting team last year. They were just really, really bad, under 29%. It's significantly better this year. It's over 34%, and that's basically where you need to be. That's not going to their bread and butter necessarily, but man, like Jacoby Gillespie, to your point, has made such a difference. Selton Miguel, these guys can make outside shots. And yeah, I mean, it is really fun to watch Derek Queen play. He's phenomenal, right? Like sometimes guys are five-star guys, and you just think, well, it still takes a while to integrate. I mean, 22-20 his first game.
It's crazy.
And then you wondered a little bit, or at least I did, about, well, you know, how tough was this early season schedule? And I was reserving judgment a little bit, and then they just annihilated Ohio State.
Oh, my God. Yes, they did.
On
both ends of the floor. It was sick.
Yeah, and Ohio State's good. So they're the real deal. I kind of had the same thought about your next team, and that's Penn State. Yeah. Like, hey, let's see what they do in the Big Ten. And then they took on Purdue and just dominated that game at home.
Yeah, they just punked Purdue from the very start. Now, when I look at this Penn State team, I was just so perplexed at how they came into this season as preseason number 17. You think about the core they were bringing back, and Ace Baldwin, one of the better point guards in the country, returning Defensive Player of the Year, Zach Hicks, Puff Johnson, Nick Kern, DeMarco Dunn. You give me those five players and say build a team in the Big Ten, I'm taking that core. They were only a few pieces away, which is why I love what Coach Rose did. He went into the portal and he didn't over-recruit guys. He didn't make guys have to think about their positions coming back into this season. He went out and he filled voids. He got Niederhauser. They needed a big 7-footer at the rim that can catch lobs, that can throw the ball inside, make a post move and go finish, but also protect the rim on the other side of the floor. He's been outstanding. And then they also needed a secondary ball handler. They need a guy next to Ace Baldwin that can handle the ball against pressure, that can go make a play for himself or others, that can make an open jumper. And that's exactly who Freddie Dillion's been. He's been awesome as a transfer. You look at these 7 guys, you look at other rosters around the Big Ten, this is one of the best 7 core guys you will see. They lock up on the defensive end. They share it and move it offensively. They run up and down, leading the Big Ten in scoring points per game. I really love what Coach Rose is doing. And Ace Baldwin, he's looking like a bona fide All-American.
It's interesting, too. You mentioned all those names that are familiar, right? Baldwin and Johnson and Kerr and all these guys who stuck around, Dunn. It really speaks volumes about how much fun they're having playing in this system, right? They return the second highest percentage of minutes in the Big Ten. This is a transient time in college basketball. Like, guys don't necessarily stick around, but it really, I think, speaks to what a fun system it is, how much they buy into Mike Rhodes, how much they enjoy one another. And then, as you say, you plug in those pieces. They're another team. I mean, they are fun to watch. They're going to get up and down. They turn their opponents over. Yep. It's a really great style of play and a team that might have a chance to make it into the NCAA tournament. Speaking of NCAA tournament teams, Northwestern was there the last couple of years. I think there was a sense they were going to drop off pretty significantly without Boo Buie this year. Look, the point guard position, I think, still a little bit up in the air. Right. But they got a great win against Illinois. What has impressed you? Why do you have Northwestern on this list?
I mean, you look at Coach Painter, and you look at how he was able to develop Zach Edey. You look at how people are talking about Purdue and developing Trey Kaufman-Renn. I look at Coach Collins in that same light. You look at the development over Boo Buie with his course of his career. Brooks Barnheiser has developed into one of the better players in the Big Ten. And then nobody had Nick Martinelli being the first-team all-conference guy coming into this season. And that's exactly what he's been. Nick Martinelli has been awesome, averaging over 21 points a game, shooting at 57% from the field, from the three-point line, which is new to his game, being able to stretch the defense a little bit, opening up those flipper doodles inside. But I look at Brooks Barnhizer and Nick Martinelli as the best duo in the Big Ten. They can both go for 20 on any given night. They share the basketball at a phenomenal rate. That game against Illinois, Nick Martinelli was just special. Had 4 points in the first half, 23 in the second half and in overtime. When you have two guys that can score the ball at that level, and then obviously with Chris Collins' teams, they're going to defend at the highest level. As long as they keep these games close, going into those 4-minute segments to finish the game, I'm taking Northwestern more times than not. Just because that core, they know how to win. They know how to win close games, and they just defend all over the floor.
Lost a couple of heartbreakers early on this year. You think about the Butler game, a little bit of a controversial call that cost them that one, and then obviously Iowa hitting the deep three-pointer from Dix to beat them. Yeah, they're an interesting team to watch, and I think to your point, you're talking about players who were not highly recruited, right? Bowie, Martinelli, Barnhizer, these were not guys with a ton of high major offers, and that's their niche, at least for now. Now they got a top 20 recruiting class coming in next year, so maybe they change things a little bit, but that has been the formula, and it has got them to where they are right now. Really, really impressive work by Chris Collins and company. A historic year for a historic award, the 100th anniversary of the Chicago Tribune Silver Football, awarded to the Big Ten MVP every year since 1924. The paper announced 3 finalists last week here on the Big Ten Network. Iowa's Caleb Johnson, part of that group, leads the Big Ten 6th in the nation in rushing yards, better than 1,500, set Iowa's single-season records for points and touchdowns is already declared for the NFL Draft. Also in that group, Penn State's Abdul Carter led the Big Ten with 19.5 tackles for loss, nearly 5 more than any other player in the conference. That number is 3rd nationally. He's the Big Ten's Defensive Player of the Year, helped lead the Nittany Lions to the CFP. As for the Big Ten's Offensive Player of the Year, he is a finalist as well. Oregon's Dillon Gabriel has had a spectacular season, leading the Big Ten in passing yards. He's 2nd in the nation in completion percentage. No player in the history of college football has been responsible for more TDs than Gabriel has. And we are going to hand out the award here today, and honored to have Frank DeVincentis here from the Union League Club. He's the first VP of that club. Frank, before we hand out the award, we're going to build up the suspense just a little bit, but we also want to get a little bit of background, because I think for me, I grew up in Chicago. I've known about this award for as long as I can recall. It was a huge deal every year, but the Big Ten has expanded this year, and so you have some people who maybe don't know about the Silver Football. So give people a little bit of a background, if you would, on the award and then on the Union League Club and its involvement with this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, as you mentioned, we're celebrating the 100th year of this award, starting in 1924, and really aiming to find that MVP of the Big Ten. And here, all the coaches get a chance to nominate a player as long as it's not their own player. So with one of the oldest trophies in college football, for the Union League Club to be part of this really means a lot. The Union League Club of Chicago, home of, we're looking to be the home for this trophy, not realizing that it wasn't one that existed. So in reaching out to Chicago Tribune and Big Ten, we were able to involve members and management in becoming the home. And we're happy to be a part of this.
So the Union League Club has been handing out this award the last few years. As you mentioned, this is the first year that we've gotten involved, and it's been really neat. For me, I've been very closely involved in getting from the point of, hey, would the Big Ten Network be interested in this, to this moment here today, and the Union League Club and the Trib have been amazing to deal with. So that's the backstory, and now the big moment.
All right, drum roll.
Yeah, drum roll, please, right? Yeah.
And the winner of the Silver Football Award is Dillon Gabriel.
Dillon Gabriel of the University of Oregon. What a year for Gabriel. 28 touchdown passes, including 4 in the Big Ten championship game win over Penn State. Has been the orchestrator of a high-powered Oregon offense that has hit the 30-point mark in 11 of its 13 games. The Big Ten champs will start their playoff run in the Rose Bowl January 1st against either Ohio State or Tennessee. And that leads us to our big interview. He is the winner of the Chicago Tribune Silver Football, Dillon Gabriel. He joins us now. Dillon, I don't know how much you know about the history of this award, so just a quick synopsis. This is the 100th anniversary of the awarding of the first Silver Football. It went to Red Grange of Illinois, who is one of the great superstars in the history of this sport. This is an award that is more than a decade older than the Heisman Trophy. So you're part of some serious history here today. What does it mean to be a part of that history?
Yeah, it means the most. I think it's a huge blessing, and being able to represent not only, my team and this, university, but also the Big Ten in general, and the game of football has done so much for me in my life. And knowing that there's people before me and there's going to be a lot of people after me. So I'm grateful to play this game, and I'm grateful to be a part of this.
What are you proudest of in this season, Dillon?
I would just say, with everything going on in this day and age of college football, a team that's continued to be unselfish and been about us, and knowing that, it ain't easy to win, but we find a way together, and just coming into work every single day, it's been a huge blessing and a big smile on my face knowing I'm doing it with people I love.
I have followed this award closely through the years. This has not historically been as much of a quarterback award as you might think. You are the fourth to win it this decade. More running backs have won it, for instance, than quarterbacks through the years. We've had a lot of linemen win it as well, particularly on the defensive side. When you think about quarterbacks recently, Justin Fields, the most recent one to win it. It goes all the way back, Jim Harbaugh, Bob Greasy. I mean, there certainly have been some names historically. But what do you think it says maybe about the changing face of the Big Ten in this first year of the inclusion of the West Coast teams, that it's a West Coast quarterback that wins it?
Yeah, definitely a step in the right direction. I love that we came in and did our thing early, but I think just respect for every opponent. We knew what we were coming into in terms of a program that's, a conference that's very physical and known for playing downhill. But we also knew our strengths and knew what we were excited to come be a part of. So what a blessing. We played this game, and, unfortunately I won't be able to play all, members in the conference, but definitely a splash in the first season with everyone.
Oregon certainly adjusted quite well to this league. You did too, and obviously you were new not only to the Big Ten, but you were new to Oregon as well. Why do you think the Ducks were able to hit the ground running?
Just immediate alignment, from the guy up top with Coach Lanning. Everyone believes and trusts in him, and a guy who's done it at a high level and has won national championships. And I think when you have that, it allows everyone else to just fall in place, and play your role at a very high level. And, it's not easy, coming in year one and doing your thing and making it all work perfectly. And it wasn't ever perfect, but I think that's allowed us to continue to get better every single week, push one another, and have an environment that's positive when it comes to getting better.
Well, the record is certainly perfect, at least to this point. Hey, I mentioned the Silver Football is older than the Heisman Trophy, but you learned this week that you will be a Heisman finalist as well. There are 13 players historically who've won both the Silver Football and the Heisman Trophy. What does it mean to you to be going to New York?
It means a lot. I want to represent, my teammates, my coaches, this university in the right way. And, the season that we had, it definitely needs to be, appreciated in a way that, knowing that there's a lot of hard work that goes into this thing. And what a great way to do that for my team. And I love them to death, and they're a huge part of, all of this that's coming into fruition. So I'm happy about that, and knowing that it'll be a fun time being able to meet those other guys.
And then, of course, you have the college football playoff to look forward to after that. You guys got a bye, and so you get a little longer than everyone else to prepare. Tell me how Oregon is using that time. How much of it is about practice? How much of it is about scouting and watching tape of the possible opponents? How much is about recovery?
Yeah, Coach Lanning's got a good schedule down. A guy who's been a part of, playoff runs, so he knows schedule-wise how to, help us in the best way possible. And, he's mentioned talking to Coach Saban and coaches that have done it at a high level for a long time. And, it's a mixture of recovery, getting the work in, making sure you're preparing for whatever opponent or what could happen down the road, but also knowing that you got to be right where your feet are. It's a win or go home mentality, and you can't get to the end goal unless you take care of what's right in front of you. So he's done a great job of that, and appreciate him knowing that, everyone trusts and believes in the vision and schedule he's got for us.
What's his message to you guys? What has he said about this time?
Take full advantage of just being present. I think it's very easy right now to look ahead and enjoy all the bowl games and holidays coming around, but knowing that we got a game upcoming and knowing that the preparation has to be on par, has to be at an elite level, and knowing that that doesn't change. So I think just letting the external opinions and things that are going on, making sure that doesn't affect our internal standards.
You mentioned you got a game coming up. You don't know who that'll be against. It's either Tennessee or Ohio State, obviously. From a Big Ten point of view, we would love to see it be the Buckeyes. You've already played them, and so you have a clear understanding of what a game against Ohio State looks like. As you think back to what was a really exciting and competitive game in Eugene, what stands out about the Buckeyes?
Yeah, very talented team, and have done it at a high level for, really the whole season. Of course, 2 games that fell short, but I think, within a season that's, it's tough. It's tough to win, and to do it consistently week to week. So everyone knows they're a talented team and knows that they're well coached. So we shall see what happens and what transpires, but, excited either way this thing goes.
Dillon, final question for you, and you are more qualified perhaps to answer this question than anyone in the history of the sport, because no one has started more games at quarterback all time in college football than you. What's the biggest thing that you learned along the way in this college football journey?
Yeah, I think I've learned it's not about what you get, it's who you become, and I think that whole journey has been most fulfilling, knowing that the people I've been around and the memories I've created and experiences that, probably nobody else will be able to experience, pre-NIL and all of this. And in my 2019 year, went through the COVID year, obviously utilized the transfer portal myself and NIL in that sense, but have just seen this game continue to evolve. But, I think just me being true to who I am has allowed me to have a lot of success, knowing that when you're around the right people, that'll naturally make you a better person. And that's what I've been striving for. I've been chasing great people and memories. That's the only thing I can take with me. So.
Well, Dillon Gabriel, congratulations, the Chicago Tribune Silver Football Award winner for 2024. We have enjoyed watching all of your action this year, and I know Oregon fans hoping for 3 more games from Dillon Gabriel at quarterback for the Ducks. Really appreciate your time. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you so much.
UCLA has done it again. The school capturing its 13th men's water polo national championship by topping arch rival USC 11-8 on Sunday in Palo Alto. It was the 124th overall national championship for the Bruins athletic department, marked the 5th title for Coach Adam Wright, though he also coached the UCLA women to a national championship of their own last spring as he oversees both programs in Westwood, which continues to amaze me. Adam Wright joins us now. Adam, last time we talked to you was the day that UCLA joined the Big Ten. In early August, you were in Hungary, and we appreciated your time then. A little bit less of a time zone issue here. It had been a little bit of a while for UCLA, at least relatively speaking. I mean, again, you hadn't won it the last 3 years. Cal had won 3 straight national championships. So what does it mean to you to have UCLA back atop the water polo world?
Yeah, it's been a long road. I mean, to go undefeated last year through the regular season and then drop in the final to Cal, these guys have worked hard. And, at some point, hard work's going to pay off. And to have the championship back here in Westwood, it means a lot to our program, and it means a lot to our university. And I'm so happy for the guys because their hard work's paying off.
I mentioned that the championship came against the Trojans. In fact, all 5 of your men's national championships as the coach at UCLA have come against USC. For people who don't understand that rivalry, give them a little insight into it.
Yeah, we had to play them 5 times this year. You can equate it to, 2 of the best Big Ten football schools having to go off against each other 5 times in a year. And it's not easy. They're an incredible program. They know what we're doing. We know what they're doing. It's a game of chess. And to come out on top, we beat them 4 times. And to come out on top with the last game means so much. I mean, the history of their program, the history of our program, obviously crosstown rivals, obviously the first time, we're in the Big Ten as a university. It means a lot for me and the guys and the program, and to do it against your crosstown rivals really, really special.
You mentioned you beat them 4 out of the 5 meetings this year. What was interesting to me is that the one that you lost was your last match prior to starting the NCAA tournament. So psychologically, was there a play there for you as you got to the national championship and you're playing them again to kind of say to your guys, were you able to use that to your advantage in any way, the fact that they had beaten you last time you played?
Yeah, and I think it's healthy sometimes to lose, and you learn so much more from losing in a lot of cases than winning. And it's hard. We had played them the week before where I think we beat them by 6, 7 goals, I believe it was. And to bounce back 5 days later and have to play them in the conference tournament, it was tough. But, the reality is we were able to hold some of our cards because of the position we were in, and be able to use those things last weekend on Sunday. So a lot of things were learned over the course of that 10-day period leading up to the finals. And again, to have a chance to do it against USC, there was nothing better.
I thought it was interesting, too, that the semifinal match was against Stanford. I mentioned this was in Palo Alto, so this is essentially a road match. And that's the other team that you had lost to this year. So this was not an easy road by any stretch for you guys. I mean, you had to go through 2 really good teams.
Yeah, I mean, the way the bracketing worked out, we had to do some hard things. And the reality is we had to play Stanford in the semifinal at their place. Nobody knew, but we were playing with our backup goalie because our starting goalie's hand was hurt. But the guys did it. And the reality is if you're going to get it done, you got to beat everyone anyways. And that game for Stanford with us was a really big stepping stone confidence-wise. Also for our backup goalie, it was his 3rd game he's ever played. And it set us up to be successful on Sunday for sure.
And you were, Ryder Dodd had a lot to do with it. He was the MVP, which is pretty remarkable considering he's a freshman. I know he had a phenomenal year for you, but how tough is that in this sport? Give people a sense for how typical it might be for a freshman to step in and be the MVP of the national tournament.
Well, look, he's the second player ever to be an Olympian coming out of high school. The last year he was undefeated with his high school team. Won a bronze medal at the Olympic Games, and then comes in here, steps into a position where he's got to be a leader for our team as a freshman. He's here literally for 3 weeks on campus and thrusted into this position. And he's special. He's one of 2 that's ever done it. I truly believe on the world stage he could be one of the best and go down as one of the best ever for sure. And we're just so lucky to have him.
Well, I mentioned that you're also the women's coach. And again, as I said, that it kind of boggles my mind that you're able to do both of them. You guys won the national championship for the women in the spring. So now you are in the unusual position of being the coach of both national championship water polo teams simultaneously. Is this kind of like the Tiger Slam back in the day where he held all the majors and put them on the mantle in his home? How are you displaying these trophies?
Well, never satisfied. Last year, you want to get it done in the same year. I guess it's the same year, but within the same academic year. But the reality is it's an incredible feat that both our men and women have done. For me, the best part is it sets them up for success in life moving forward. They know they can do hard things, but to have water polo really rest here in Westwood means the world, because this is the place I chose to be as a student athlete, because this is what we do here. And the reality is to have both programs at the top is really, really special.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that last point before we let you go. You won 2 national championships as a player at UCLA. It's your alma mater. How much more special is it for you to do this in a place that's so meaningful to you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the place that I dreamed of being. Never in a million years did I think I'd be back here leading the programs. But for me, it's about the kids, you know, and to watch the smiles on their faces and for them to understand the work that they've put in leads them to great things. And to do it at a place that means so much is there's nothing better. So, I mean, it's the best gift you can ever get. It's, you know, it's Christmas, it's the holidays, but the real gift is to look at my kids, you know, the players' eyes, and that means the world to me.
Adam Wright, congratulations on another national title, and we'll look forward to seeing then in the spring whether you can win them both in the same academic year. But incredible accomplishments, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Basketball, our Gatorade game leaders, looking at the freshman scoring leaders in the Big Ten, and what a list this is. Rutgers' Dylan Harper, he's the 3rd leading scorer in the nation, has more than lived up to his 5-star hype. His teammate Ace Bailey not far behind. He and Derek Queen each pouring in 17.5 per game. A couple of Fighting Illini behind them, and then OSU's John Mobley Jr., nearly 13 per game. Just for perspective, Raphael, all 6 of these guys are averaging more points per game than the Big Ten's leading freshman scorer last year did, Mackenzie Mbako. So you got 6 guys on that list, all more than the leading freshman scorer a season ago. So let's run through what is just a fabulous class. And you've been saying this really from the word go, how good these freshmen are. You have to start with Harper. Again, the 3rd leading scorer in the country. I mean, to step in at point guard with all that hype, all that responsibility, and more than deliver. He's been fabulous.
I mean, Dylan Harper has been just absolutely big time. You go back to the MTE, to the Players Era Festival, those 2 games out in Vegas, Dylan Harper just had his way. Averaged 37 points on 56% from the field in 2 games and only made 2 threes. At 6'6", 215 pounds, he has the ball skills, the athleticism to get downhill, finish at the rim, shoot over smaller defenders, has a great post-up game. Amazing in transition. He has the ability to keep Rutgers at any basketball game this season. He's long, can play in the passing lane. He's really figuring it out on the defensive end. When you think about this Big Ten freshman class, I go all the way back to 1991 when you had Chris Webber, you had Juwan Howard, you had, Glenn Robinson, 2 number 1 draft picks in that class. This class right here is talented.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I'm blown away by his size and his strength. Yes. I mean, he plays so much older than he is.
Can't speed him up.
Yeah, no, he's phenomenal. So he is great. Let's talk about Bailey as well.
I mean, at 6'10", you think of Ace Bailey on the wing position as one of the better scorers in the country. He can score it inside. He can knock down shots on the outside. He's long, he's poised. You just can't speed him up as well. And he just has gotten the job done. You think about the game the other night against Penn State. 15 points, 15 rebounds, did whatever coach asked him to do on the floor. He's figuring out the physicality of the game, playing that forward position in the Big Ten. He's been outstanding. Having a guy at 6'10" on the wing that can go get a basket at any given point in the basketball game always keeps you in a chance. You look at Dylan Harper, you look at Ace Bailey's. If Rutgers has a 3rd guy this season, I hope it could be Jeremiah Williams that can go along with those 2. Rutgers could be playing in the Final Four.
He's phenomenal, too. I think the difference, though, to me, between him and Harper is it feels like it feels like Bailey comes and goes a little bit more.
That's facts.
I don't know whether you would
agree
with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that when you think about Ace Bailey playing through his offense. Plays through his offense so much. When he's scoring, when he's making shots, he gives it all to you on both ends of the floor. That's why I loved in that Penn State game. He didn't necessarily play through his offense. He was just out there playing hard, crashing the glass, stealing possessions for his team, being able to be that guy inside that they could depend on to go get a big-time rebound. Because when Penn State started inching back, they were getting it back into that basketball game. It was Ace Bailey, the freshman, on the boards that really sealed the deal. He's got to figure out how to play hard on both ends, rather if he's 7 points per game or rather if he's getting 20. And then at that next spot, I look at Derek Queen at 6'10", 250 pounds, as a four-man, five-man, can do it all offensively. He can post, he can score over each shoulder, has PhD-level footwork down inside. He has the ability at 6'10", 250 to play off a ball screen. The ball screen action with Derek Queen and Julian Reese has been special this season. When your freshman is leading the charge offensively and defensively and on the glass, that's why you see this big turnaround in College Park for Maryland.
Yeah, Queen, incredible. I mean, you mentioned, like, he can do it all. The PhD level, I think, is a great metaphor for what he's done. Like, I look at those Ken Palm rankings where they rank the top players in the country. He is the number 10 most efficient player in the country as a freshman. I mean, Cooper Flagg's on the list, and obviously we know he will likely be the number 1 pick in the draft, although I'm not sure I would sell all of these Big Ten guys short here. Dylan Harper's awfully good. We're going to talk about another one who I think is phenomenal here in a second. But Derek Queen, I mean, guy got 22 and 20 in his first game in college basketball and hasn't looked back since then. I want to talk about Kasparas Giacochonis. I know he's on your list. I think he is just outstanding. The feel that he has for the game, he makes big-time shots. I mean, we've seen him shoot over 7-footers now, 2 games in a row, right? I mean, it's incredible, his confidence. And then the way that he distributes. The guy's 18 years old, and he's, again, wise beyond his years.
He just plays like a veteran. You think about that overseas experience, playing high-level professional basketball. It's just prepared him to go on the road and dominate here in the Big Ten. You think first 2 Big Ten games of the season, Kasparas averaging 22 points a game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, on 10 of 18 from the three-point line. You just can't speed him up. He plays with great pace, has great spacing on the floor. He can knock down shots over larger defenders. He can get to the basket and finish through physical contact, has strong physical body at 6'6", 220. I love what Kasparas has been able to do this season. Coming into the year, there have been people talking about maybe he could be a late first-round draft pick. Maybe he plays 2 years. This guy has played himself into a top 10 pick, looking like one of the best point guards in the country.
I saw a draft that had him 3rd the other day. I mean, that shot over Nicholson. Nicholson's 7 feet tall.
Looked like he blocked it, too.
Crazy. Yeah, and again, the game was on the line there. Pretty impressive. Hey, one game in the Big Ten tonight, Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa gets this game at home. Iowa State's number 3 in the country. Both these teams have had some really good moments here early on this year, but this will be a challenging game for the Hawkeyes. Give us a sense for the Cyclones and what they're up against.
Yeah, you got to take care of the basketball when you're playing Iowa State. You cannot turn the basketball over. So I think Brock Harding will be huge in this game. He's had a fabulous 4 or 5 game stretch. I think Owen Freeman's going to have to stay on the floor. He can't get into any early foul trouble. He's going to have to be the guy. And then games like this, you're playing a top 5 team in your home court. You need your stars to play like stars. I'm expecting the big-time performers from Peyton Sanford. And then defensively, Iowa's got to bring it on the perimeter. Iowa State, they play through their guards.
Keyshawn Gilbert's phenomenal.
Man,
that's going to be the huge challenge. This will be a fun game, too. These are 2 teams that like to get up and down. Yep. We know how heated this series can be. So should be a ton of fun tonight in Iowa City. Thanks so much for watching here on Big Ten Today.